Just bangs, no back hair, just bangs.
All right.
Oh, where were we?
So where were we?
With deer hunting, if you knew...
started with 100 years ago, if it would be easier to hunt or not.
100 years ago, would it be easier to hunt?
Well,
No.
I know just from like the stories that my grandpa has told me from when he was a kid back in PA. He was like, dude, it was few and far between that like you killed the deer.
Yeah.
They weren't around as much. And I think a lot of that has to do population wise is like, especially within the last, 50 years, it's gotten a lot more mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
And, back then there wasn't products devoted to deer like there is now.
No,
as far as like food plots, and
it's its own industry.
it is. And I think that's why we're seeing such a big influx and bigger deer being killed every year.
So if you look at where we came from as a country prior to lack of better terms, because this is what they always say on Meat Eater, is European contact, right?
Yeah.
So what happened after that contact was made is that we started having essentially quote unquote food plots, which is ag.
Yeah.
And we started to change the dynamic of the landscape. And as we were making things bigger for us to live, we were making things smaller for the deer to live in.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we started to spread, especially where we are now with some of our housing, how it's built out as just a dynamic itself, is that these deer are in pockets. So these deer are bigger now because they can be, because they are being fed better, because they are living amongst themselves in their own community, to where I personally think that there is a gene, or there is something about these deer that is allowing them to get bigger because of what we created.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and at the same time, what you were saying about population, you take 10,000 deer in this big of an area and you remove 60% of that,
Mm-hmm.
the population's going to seem bigger because now you have 10,000 deer in this area.
Mm-hmm.
So people are going to believe there's a ton of. That's why everyone in the cities always think there's a ton of deer. Well, there's not a lot of woods.
Yeah.
They're staying in those small plots of woods, and where they can be secluded for that little bit of time before they go out. And that's why I don't want to say there's more deer. There could be less deer. We didn't really keep as good as a record back then as we do now.
So let me ask you this. Would you have it this way, or would you have it 200 years ago?
I mean, can I use the garment?
Can we use the same technology
Can I use the
now,
same technology
then?
now?
Yeah, but think about like restaurants and fast food.
Back
That didn't
well,
exist either.
back then, because like your deer hunting boom started like post World War II.
Yeah.
That's when like all the guys were coming home. They wanted to deer hunt, and to me, that's more hunting than it is now.
Yeah. To
I'm not saying we're not hunting. Like we're all out there with the same end goal.
It was different.
But totally different back then. And then there was a lot of deer that you ask any old
They hunted
timer.
to survive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You ask any old timer, they tell you about they shot deer out of season because they needed to. But when it came down to like hunting, they weren't hunting. They didn't have cameras. They didn't have, you might have had a scope. A lot of guys, like my grandpa, used iron sights for a long time. And it was more, well, to us, it would be more traditional, but to them, that's just how it was.
Yeah. So, have you ever shot a deer with iron sights?
I have.
I the only deer I've ever killed with iron sights was my first deer, and I had to be 12,
Okay.
maybe, I think, and I thought I missed. I thought I went straight over its back, and I got it, walked up to it. I thought it was a button buck, or no, I thought it was a doe. It turned out to be a button buck. That felt a lot more realistic than some of the scope hunting that I do, because I've even publicly said on field to food platforms that I prefer to be a rifle hunter or a gun hunter than I do over archery, which I love archery.
Yeah.
I like the cheat code of a gun, knowing that, all right, I can probably get pretty much anything that I can get a safe shot off of within around here 200 yards.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Growing up, we hunted, you have a shotgun.
Yeah.
And if you didn't have a slug barrel, you used the field barrel when you found a gun that shot good. because we didn't have a lot of guns that had removable chokes. So I luckily had an Ithaca Model 37 that slung a slug like a dream.
Yeah.
So, and then I had my 870, which had a dedicated slug barrel on it with iron sights, like actual buckhorn sights. But no, I killed a lot of shotgun with just a bead barrel. Killed a lot of deer that way. But we were doing drives, and you don't want magnification on something moving is not your friend at all.
No, that's good hunting though, especially. All right, so although deer drives are kind of getting like pushed out to be maybe not necessarily a kosher thing, but some agree with it, some don't, especially on public land, especially where public land is so pressured these days. Would you teach somebody else to do a deer drive now, knowing that it is kind of like, could be yes, could be no?
It kind of all depends. Because, like, I'm not a huge fan of pushing the public out. Just because, like, okay, yeah, you get in there with a gang of guys that push public.
Yeah.
And there's one guy who got his one day off of work that week to hunt.
Yep.
And 4 guys go strolling past him.
Oh, and you just ruined that guy's weekend.
I don't like that. We always, and I think a lot of people don't like it now because I don't think a lot of people have done it.
No,
that's sort of a.
It's not practiced very often.
Yeah, well, I think
sorry, but it is traditional.
It is, and like when we did it, we had a gang of guys, and they were all the guys that hunted there forever on the same property.
Yeah,
we just kind of that's how we did it, and obviously they got older as time went on, and now no one really everyone kind of got too old to do it.
Yeah,
and there wasn't a whole lot of younger guys to get in there. So like I gun hunt with a buddy. I didn't go down last year, a couple years, and like we do drives, but they're like 4-man giddy ups. Where it's like, all right, you two stand here, and then we're just kind of zigzag around. It might work, it might not. But if you got a good group of guys that know what they're doing on a piece of property, you can do some work.
You can push a property out that way.
I mean, we had some banger years. Because all we used to push out was gravel pits where my grandpa's worked. And like my grandpa and his friends, they hunted the gravel pits they worked at. So like they were old reclaimed ones. Like that's where we did a lot of bow hunting. They were like, it was just like 600 acres of like, you'd have big fields and chunks of woods and pinch points and not really a whole lot of agriculture. It was one field that they planted in. But only a couple spots of big timber, but everything else was just so thick and it held deer. So we knew like, okay, we know how to do this. We know, and we had enough guys to pretty much know where to go.
So when you're setting up a deer drive, are you like purposely playing the wind?
We never played that. No. We always... Well, there was so much history with my family there. They'd be like, well, 99% of the time the deer come this way. Every now and then they go out that way, so let's put a guy over there.
Yeah.
And then we're going to put the rest of the guys up here, and then usually 2 or 3 guys would walk through.
Oh, so you were just hunting escape routes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot of it was you'd have like CRP or a block of timber, and then it'd just be field.
Okay.
Where they used to dig, and they used to drive and everything, so they had to cross somewhere.
Yeah.
A lot of times you didn't get a shot. A lot of times they'd be running past you at 200 yards. But we had it. They had it down pretty good, and we had a few good properties what we would hunt on. But I miss it. I miss doing the drives. I thought they were a lot. I know you still do drives, right?
Yep,
yeah. I think they're a blast. Because
I want my kids to do deer drives.
And it's to me it always was kind of nice because like you just spent the last 2.5 months bow hunting. And you had to sit still, be quiet, don't move, and it kind of gave you a chance to move.
And yeah,
and there was a lot of camaraderie.
Exactly,
camaraderie and relaxation. Where whatever, if deer gets by you, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah,
whatever.
Yeah.
Well, it's also the team aspect of it because Casey and I are very individual hunters when it comes to most of our deer season. But exactly that when it comes to whenever her and I have pushed out a piece, which is just normally her and I trying to push out a piece, which is kind of tough, but in the past, when I've done it with other guys as well, like this may have been a deer that was killed from a single shooter, but everybody
you all worked for
work in on it. Yeah. And then we are.
It's like it's everybody's deer. Everybody's selling.
Yeah. You never say like, how'd you do hunting? It's not like, oh, I didn't get anything. It's, oh, we killed 4 deer.
Yeah.
Oh, we killed 3 deer. It's a we thing. It's a group collective, and that's why it's nice.
And then everybody goes back to the camp, and we all BS over one of those.
BSing over a nice Mountain Dew.
Yes, Mountain Dew. It's sugar free.
And made with corn.
Well, and then you just sit around and play euchre, and everyone probably stays up too late drinking Mountain Dews, and then wakes up feeling real tired in the morning.
Yeah. Everyone has a headache from all the sugar.
Yeah, so much sugar.
When you hope we get Mountain Dew.